everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Good, Bad, and Ugly of Business. I am your host, Katrin Becker. In this podcast, we interview people from all different professions, all different industries, all different walks of life, because we want to learn what they have learned in their lifetime to make them so successful. And we like to say that while a smart person learns from their mistakes, a genius learns from the mistakes of others. And that's why we bring them on here. So you can either avoid the mistakes completely, or you can fail through them faster. My guest today is an amazing realtor out of New Hampshire and Massachusetts who is taking the way that we do home buying and giving it that millennial twist. So Allyssa Hamel, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Really, it's an honor. I'm just thrilled.
Well, the honor is all ours. I mean, I think that being a realtor is a pretty hard profession because it's so much of referral and word of mouth and who you know, and everyone knows like 10 realtors, right?
Yes.
So what made you go into real estate and what do you love about it?
Great questions. Yeah. So I am kind of one of those people that started without any real path. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I graduated high school. I went to community college, started out in criminal justice, thought I was going to be an attorney, or really, I just watched Criminal Minds every day. So I was like, okay, I'll do that.
You're like, how can I make true crime my real life?
Right, exactly. Not the best hobby, but that's where I was at. I went through a lot of family hardship too throughout high school, so I was kind of lost. I actually, looking back on it, my family did have to let go of our house in 2011. So if anybody's familiar, that's kind of when the market was still pretty down. And I just remember it being a really hard process for my mom. My parents were going through a divorce, and I just remember that she kept saying the bleep realtors coming over, and it was just so like awful. She kept telling us what we had to change in our house. My mom didn't have time. So in hindsight, I feel like that kind of started my motivation to be like, this process should be easier than what it is. So fast forward, going into school again, I didn't know what I was doing or where I was going. And I was introduced to, I'll keep this somewhat short, but I was introduced to a network marketing company when I was 19. And if anybody's familiar with network marketing, you could probably get a lot of different ideas on the fact that it might be a pyramid scheme. It's this, it's that, it's all these different things, right? For me, it was an eye-opening experience to a world that I had no idea existed. I came from a very modest middle-class family. My mom was a secretary. My dad was a mechanic. I didn't know what business really was, and I didn't know that it was attainable for me. So it really just opened my eyes to what was out there, and I learned how to follow successful people and see what they were doing in order to obviously make that happen for myself. And one of the biggest things that I realized is that a lot of successful people own real estate. And we read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if anybody's familiar with that. I say we, so my fiance and I met during this time period as well. So we kind of built through this together, we kind of built our lives together around business and real estate.
Well, it's so beautiful, like to have you and your husband doing this together and starting from that perspective, because once one person's established in one area, to try to bring them in can be a little bit more challenging because you've done things a certain way, you're used to your certain processes, and now you have to be more accommodating and adjust what you've been doing for the other person. So starting it together is a really lovely way to do it.
Yeah, it was really cool. We were definitely really hyped up, and we were 20 thinking we were going to be millionaires by 23. But
which happens. I mean,
right.
It is not outside the realm of possibilities.
Right.
It definitely is possible.
It didn't happen for us, but it gave us the vision to think that way. Yes, exactly. I guess I mentioned that because it was, it's funny looking back and just seeing how excited we were about life. And as I mentioned, I wasn't in that place a couple years prior. I was very much not excited about life. So it really threw us forward. So yeah, fast forward from there, and we got introduced to real estate investing through a big seminar that was coming to our city in Boston. And it was something that wasn't just like for real estate agents, it was to invest in real estate, which we knew was somewhere we wanted to go in the future. So we were 20, I think we were 21 at this point, and we went and we bought the program they were selling, which put us in quite a bit of credit card debt. But we took a chance and we said, hey, you know, if it's not this, then what is it? Let's do it now while we're young and we can recoup if all else fails. And I didn't.
I absolutely love that. And I also think being young really helps because when you're young, you're like, yeah, why not? You know, but
Yeah.
you know, you think of it in terms of our culture has set us up to think like going and spending, you know, $100,000 for a 4-year bachelor degree, like is completely acceptable and normal. And there's no guarantee. I mean, you think there's some sort of guarantee of what you're going to have as a job getting out, like thinking, okay, I'm doing this major, this is the average salary, but that doesn't mean you're going to get that job that you want, right? You still have to go after it. So I think it's a really nice way to rethink of it as, you know, it's still investing in your education, whether you spent it through the person, you know, running the seminar or whether it was through a college. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but they're just two different paths that are equally have their challenges, equally have their benefits, and there's no guarantee with either one.
Right. No, completely. That's exactly what was going through my mind when we were trying to make this decision, because we had both at the time actually dropped out of college because we weren't learning what we wanted to learn. We were both in sales, but we were taking science classes and Shakespeare's classes and all these like random electives that you have to take. And we were learning more on YouTube and through books on personal development and following successful people. And it just didn't seem like it was really benefiting us compared to how much money we were spending on college.
Yeah.
So we had both dropped out. I luckily had grants to go to community college, so I didn't have any college debt to begin with behind me. And it wasn't that much money. I think it was like maybe 15 grand we paid in total to do this program, which was a ton of money at the time. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, like you said, compared to 100 grand going 4 years in college, it's really nothing. And we're already paid it off. We paid it off probably 5 years ago at this point. So
you definitely got your ROI from it.
For sure. But it was scary. And trust me, my parents were not, my mom was not happy.
Like, you did what?
Thought I was crazy. But we wouldn't be where we are today if we didn't make that decision. So
yeah, you have to take the chance sometimes and keep going, because I love to say with my clients all the time that you don't fail until you quit.
Right. Exactly. And that's what I feel like my story has been like a great example of, is just continuing to go and go and go and go until you get there. Because as you said, you know, with, sorry, hold on one second. So hold on.
It's okay. We can edit it out. No worries.
Okay. Oh my God. I was just going somewhere with this. So what did we just talk about?
We were talking about college. We were talking about ROI. We were talking about you don't give up till you quit or till you quit. Yeah. You don't fail.
Oh, right. So, okay. To go back to how I actually became a realtor.
Okay. So just kind of pause.
Yeah. Okay. So when we started in real estate, like I said, we started with that program and we started a home solutions company. So we really jumped right into forming an LLC. We actually became advisors for sellers who maybe needed other scenarios than just selling their house on the market. And back in 2015, 2016, this was definitely more of a need than it is today because the market's so hot. So it was really interesting for us to jump right into that and learn all of that marketing, learn how to connect with people, learn problem solving, instead of just saying, okay, yeah, we're going to list your house on the market. It was, can I find you a cash buyer? Can I take over your property subject to? Can I buy this property myself and renovate it? So offering all of those options to people really built the foundation of our understanding of real estate and what you can do with real estate. And then as time went on, 2017, 2018, that's when the market really started gaining traction. And we felt like our best solution for people was to sell their real estate instead of these other solutions because the appreciation was going up.
Well, I love how it's such a great point on how volatile markets can be, whether it's real estate, no matter what it is, like our markets are always changing. And I think when we can accept that there's going to be change in the market and that there's things outside of our control, like it's so easy not to make an excuse because it's like, oh, okay, well, this situation just changed. How am I going to problem solve? How am I going to create new solutions to adjust it? Because you started talking about the recession in 2008 and how it affected your mom's home in 2011. And then we had 2020, 21, 22, the market was super hot. And then in 23 it's kind of been cooling off. So all of these changes, I feel like you've really had a great insider view as to what was happening. And because of that, you've created a course for home buyers. Can you tell us a little bit more about your course?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So all of that foundation and learning about like what the potential of real estate is, whether good or bad, right? People can over leverage their property and have to sell at a down market and then have nothing to show from it. Or people can buy what I like to call a smart first property and leverage that purchase into the future. So you're buying a little bit below your means, you're buying, like I said, a smart property, which is an acronym that I made up that stands for sustainable financially. So something that you can afford easily. Minimalistic for your needs. If you don't have kids yet, if you really only have two people living in the house, you really don't need a 4-bedroom house. Maybe buy a 2-bedroom condo to be able to leverage down the road. A stands for appreciation friendly. So I like to think of that as something in a city or a town that is on the rise. Maybe it's not the greatest neighborhood right now, but you can see potential starting to build. Those are the properties that have the highest potential to appreciate. R is for renovations. If you can do renovations in a property, that's what we like to call sweat equity. So you're actually forcing the appreciation in a property, and something that you put in $20,000 to do a renovation could net you $100,000 on the back end. So between that and then the last one is tenants. If you can rent out your property or a portion of your property, obviously that is ideal. That takes your property from a liability and makes it an asset, puts money in your pocket.
That's such a great way to explain it to people. It's such a nice way of breaking it down because it's things that people all know, but to put it in that sort of container of like, oh yeah, okay. It really is a great way to explain it to people, especially people who've never done anything. Most people don't know that much about real estate investing and how to take that to the next level.
Exactly. And that's where the idea of this course was born, was that I can see my generation coming into the market, and I have buyer consultations with them all the time, and they're so lost and confused. And I think that's because, we're asking for advice from our parents. And when they bought real estate, it was just completely different, right? We have this idea that we go to school, we get a job, we buy a house, we have kids, and we live happily ever after. But that's really not the reality for our generation. But just between the housing and the wages, the amount of that wages have increased over time versus the amount appreciation or property value has increased over time is there's just such a difference in that a rate of appreciation in that graph if you were looking at it side by side. So people love to rag on millennials and think that we're lazy and that we're just not doing things correctly. But like the reality is that things are so different and financially really challenging for us. So
I think every generation thinks that about like 2 or 3 generations.
Of
I
course.
mean, like
That's a
I
good
think
point.
about like how parents who had their children in the 40s and 50s, like when they were in the 60s and 70s, they probably thought like this is crazy.
Right.
These
So
hippies.
true.
So, and now
Right.
the new hippies are just, we just swapped out the word millennial, right? Like it's
Yeah,
always going to be that case of as things evolve and how things change. Because let's face it, humans
exactly.
don't love change.
Right. And it's not anybody's fault, right? It's just the facts. It's just reality. So that's why I wanted to create a resource for people that was modern, that was really talking to what is going on in today's market, and not just about the process and what it takes to buy a house, because yes, you have to save money, you have to put a down payment, you have to make an offer, you have to go through those steps, but what is it that we're actually buying and why are we buying it? I think those are the questions that millennials really struggle with. Is, why am I doing this? I'm comfortable where I'm renting. Why should I even bother going to buy? It's because in 20 years from now, you're going to be able to, you'll be sitting on such an asset that's going to benefit you in the long term. Or in the short term, if you buy a smart property, you can leverage it 2-3 years down the road to work you closer to that dream home. Because again, we're not just buying our dream homes out of college anymore. That's not how it works. So yeah, I just really wanted to empower people to feel like they know what they're talking about when they're approaching the market. And
Because people
really
can
give them
totally
that confidence.
tell when someone doesn't know what they're talking about. And it's
Right.
really easy to take advantage of them. And I think one thing that I want
Right.
to just clarify for people is, you're a realtor, but you're also a real estate investor. And
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to be both. There's plenty of
Right.
real estate investors who are just investors. There's plenty of realtors that are not investors. And you
Right.
have chosen to be both. So tell me about how being both has been a benefit to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So like something I wrote on my website, one of my taglines is that I want to help bridge the gap between looking at a home as a home and looking at a home as an investment. Because as we said, it's really different in today's world, and we really do need to think of it as a financial investment. So I think by having that investor foundation, it's really, one, given me that knowledge to be able to actually speak on it in a way that makes sense, because I've been doing this for about 8 years now. So it's not like I just got started in this. I actually have lived experience, not only from myself, but through my clients that I've witnessed. And then on the other end of it, I'm actually living through and doing what I'm preaching. So, for example, my fiance and my husband and I bought a 3-family house in 2020, where we are renting out 2 of the units and living in one. The 2 units bring in 80% of the mortgage payment. So we pay probably around $400 a month to live here, which saved us around $1,200 a month compared to what we were renting for.
And that's
Now,
a
it's not
huge
ideal.
percentage. That
Oh
adds
my
up.
gosh. Yeah, it really changed our life financially, truly. I know a lot of people don't want to be landlords, and I totally get that. Like, that's the answer that I get a lot from people when I suggest, hey, maybe you should think about looking at a multifamily. I will say I've been in the units upstairs twice since we've owned this property, which is 3 years now.
Hmm.
So it's not as scary as it seems. Do things happen? Yes. But if you have the right resources behind you, if you have the right contacts that are available to you, which I, as a realtor, always provide for my clients, then you'll always have the solution to any problem that comes up. And look at how much it can save you in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other piece of that is it's not always glamorous. I mean, there is a reason why people don't want to be landlords.
Right.
And so it's great that you can help them to show the benefits of doing it, and it might not be what they think, but also being prepared to say, you might have to get your hands dirty.
Right. Absolutely. And that's the risk and reward, right? Every investment, every big decision comes with risks and rewards. The risks are, yes, you're responsible for 3 units, which means 3 refrigerators, 3 stoves, blah, blah, blah. But the reward is that we're saving $12,000 or $1,200 a month, which is, close to $20,000 a year, which then we can put towards other things. And, it really has paid off for us. Maybe other people aren't as successful, but I think that that kind of turns back into your mindset and how you're approaching things and how you're looking at things. And if you have a positive mindset, I really do believe that positive things come out of it. Maybe that's a little too
Absolutely.
but
Well, and also I think it's because in any situation you can find the good.
exactly.
You know, you can't have a pearl without that grit, without
Exactly.
that piece of sand rubbing, you know, that seems so horrible in the moment. And then you look back
Right.
and you're like, oh, but I'm a pearl. So that's exciting.
Right. Exactly. The best things in life take hard work. I really do believe that.
You can appreciate it more. If everything was exactly the
Absolutely.
same all the time, we would have no appreciation for what we have. But you know, we do call this podcast the good, bad, and ugly. So
Right.
you can share some
Exactly.
stories of the ugly that you've experienced and how you've overcome it and how you found the pearl. We'd really enjoy that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will say, I think what I was kind of getting to further before when we were talking is you mentioned that you have to keep going, right? So as a real estate agent, most people probably know you get paid 100% commission. Sometimes there's no deals coming in, which means no money coming in. So to choose this route for a career is, again, a risk that I had to take and that my husband had to take at the same time. We were working side jobs working in restaurants to sustain ourselves as we were moving through. But that was definitely a really difficult time for us as we were building our business client wise, because we were young, we didn't have a ton of experience, we didn't have a ton of confidence. So we had to really just keep pushing and believe that it was going to work out for us. And it has, in the long run. So that's one example on the career side of things. As far as being a landlord, I would say, honestly, there's not that much of the negative that I have to report. I do think we've gotten really lucky with who we have as tenants, but obviously it's not ideal living with people, right? So you have different personalities, you have different things going on at all different times. We have young children. So there's some aspects of that become not ideal, right? When you want to be in the backyard, but somebody else is out there, or you feel like you have to bring out the trash barrels every weekend or someone's having fun upstairs and it's 9 o'clock at night and you want to go to bed. Stuff like that is definitely like the ugly side of it. But again, to me, it's just that much more worth it to have that, but be in a house, to have ownership. Because kind of rolling back a little bit too, we really wouldn't be able to afford or buy a regular single family house. We didn't have much funds to stand on when we were renting. We didn't really have a good financial foundation, again, because we were kind of like the starving artist of real estate and becoming who we were meant to be. And in the meantime, working at restaurants and really working paycheck to paycheck. So buying a 3-family was really the only option for us, so that we had I'm sorry, can you
Go back.
out? Okay.
I was like, what is happening?
I don't know. Don't come in here.
We've only got like 5 more minutes.
I know. Oh my God. Okay, sorry. Now I completely lost my train of thought.
You just went back again.
I know.
Are you done?
I know. Are we good, hon?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Let's rethink this.
I don't even know what we were talking about. That
I
was like,
so we're
did
talking
they have
about
a dog?
No, just my future husband.
I might create a blooper reel.
Our bedroom is right here, so we have like a cut through.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Like I need an hour. Okay. Anyways, I'm sorry. I keep like losing my train of thought. Obviously, that was a little more distracting, but
that was really funny. I have no idea either, but I can just ask a different question and
okay,
edit it to
go from there.
to make sense. Yeah. Okay. So you've come so far in your career and what you've learned. Like, what's next for you and your husband? Like, what's the next big goal that you're working towards?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are actually in the process of buying another house. So that is another way that we are leveraging the property that we own right now. So basically what we're doing is we're taking what's called a home equity line of credit from this house. As we mentioned, the market has been crazy over the last few years. We bought this house in 2020, and just to throw out some numbers for you, we bought it for 440 and the house recently appraised for 580. So now we have that equity and we can take about 80% of that equity out in a home equity line of credit, which brings us to about, I think 75 grand is what we're taking out. And now we can use that on the next down payment on the new property. So with that HELOC and the mortgage, this property being rented out will still cover those finances or those payments. And then the new house is also another 2-family. It's bigger. It has more of like an in-law setup. So it's just going to be a bigger property for us in our growing family, but also is going to be able to bring an income for us still while we need it over the next few years and we continue to build our careers. So that's the most recent newest step. We are getting married and sorry, probably cut that. I'm awful.
You work for
So
this
I would say,
girl.
yeah. So I would say that's our next step, is really moving into that house and being able to leverage, what we've done here and move into a bigger, better property for ourselves. And then hopefully buy some more property down the road. I'd love to get into commercial real estate and investing in mixed use properties and helping small businesses learn how to own their own real estate as an asset for their business as well. So yeah, I have a lot of things that I want to move forward towards. My course is obviously out and ready to go to help first-time home buyers and home buyers alike to navigate the world of home buying and navigate the market that we find ourselves in today. So I want to continue to help people do that and continue to build my real estate portfolio.
And it's great because, as a real estate agent, you can only work in, your state of New Hampshire or Massachusetts where you're licensed. As a real estate investor, you can work in other places. I know several real estate investors that have never seen their properties that they work on. So there's a bit more expansion there. But now people can work with you all over because you have this great online course. So that's really fantastic.
Right.
The last question I want to ask you before we wrap up is, how do you define success for you? Like, when do you know that you've made it?
That's such a good question. I feel like that's something that's changed over time too, because as I said, when I was 21, success was that like $1 million paycheck or bank account and $1 million in my bank account. But I definitely have changed that perspective, especially after having kids. My level of, or my viewpoint of success at this point is truly time freedom. Like, I just want to be able to potentially homeschool my kids. I want to be home for all their sports. I want to be as involved in their life as possible as they grow up. And once I'm there, which I do feel like I'm there to a certain extent because I do make my own schedule at this point. I don't have to be anywhere at any certain time. And it really takes me back sometimes to sit and reflect and say, wow, when I was 20 or 21, I'd be proud to say that I'm here now. So it really is, like, it gives me chills sometimes to think of what I envisioned back then and what I'm doing now, and then what will potentially happen in the future.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great. So how can the people get a hold of you? I mean, how do they find you for all the different things that we've talked about?
Yeah, sure. So I'm most active on Instagram. I try to like show the insides of my personal life as well as give real estate tips and home buyer tips on my Instagram account. So that's at MKG period home period solutions. If you're looking at it written out. So MKG Home Solutions is my business, and you can find my website at mkghomesolutions.com. That explains where my course is. I have a blog on there. Yeah, and it really just, like I said, Instagram is really where I just connect with people the most and try to share my real life experiences as well as real success stories from myself and other clients, and obviously real estate tips and tricks.
Well, perfect. I have all of those Links connected in the show notes so you can conveniently just scroll down and click them and be immediately connected to Allyssa. Any final words before we go?
I think, one, I'm just so grateful to be here. So thank you so much. This is my first podcast experience. So I'm just so honored. And I just want to say that, like we said before, keep going. Like, your dreams are worth dreaming, and they're worth happening. And if you just take small steps every single day, it might take time, but I promise you'll get there, and it will be so glorious when you do. So that's my little tidbit, I guess, that I'll leave you with.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much.
Stick with it. Yeah.
Allyssa, thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
Thank you, Katrin. It was really so enjoyable. I really enjoyed talking to you.
I did as well. And to the listeners, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your audience. It really means the world to us. And if there are other people, industries, professions, things that you're curious about, reach out, because I would love to find them as guests for a future episode. Until next time, everyone, have a great day.
Bye.